Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Sheena, and I am part of Garranto Academy. Hearty welcome to IBF Virtual Career Fair. This fair will help people for career opportunities, financial companies who want to hire people, and future-enabled skills workshops. Garranto Academy is a Singapore-based edutech providing skill development training across Asia. We nurture, we coach, we train, and we build skills to achieve career goals. Garanto Academy is an IBF accredited training provider, and our courses and training provide a holistic learning experience with a world-class subject matter experts. So our topic to be tackled today is about design thinking and human-centered design. Let me invite Mr. Vivian to introduce our speaker, Madame Sabina.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm Vivian Gomes, signing in from Garranto, San Francisco, also a partner and co-founder with Human Factor Research and Design. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce Sabina Krishna. Sabina comes with over 2 decades of international experience in research, has been a speaker in World Usability Congress, at Google for the startups, for the mentoring of many seasons of theirs. This is the 6th season going on right now, and she brings international research experience and the value that she has been able to add to companies like from different industries: banking, government, fintech, insurance, mobile, various technologies. And today we will get that value from her talk. And it's an honor to have you here, Savina. Over to you. Thank you for joining us.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you, Vivian. Good evening to you. I'm signing in from Bangalore. It's a very nice rainy day, and I'm there are lots of depression, so we are getting a lot of rain over the last 1 week, and I'm sure the attendees in this team mostly are from Singapore because I can see the name. Please feel free to use the chat to give me any kind of feedback or anything that you would like to kind of a response, because right now I'm going to be talking to a screen. So good morning, everybody. Thank you, Garranto Academy, for this opportunity to be able to share my experiences and to help guide you in your respective careers in banking and fintech. So Sheena, do we wait for more people to sign in, or shall I just start sharing my screen? Hi guys, you can use the chat board to send me a response if you have a problem here.
Please go ahead, Sabina.
Okay, so can I start, Manmagaru?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. I was not able to hear that. Okay. Hi, everybody. Once again, I'm Sabina Krishna. Today, I've been given an opportunity to talk about design thinking and value of research. So these are 2 topics which I'm going to dwell in with very high level to share, because this is a very vast topic. It takes years and years of experience to work on it and specialize in these topics. But I'm sure in banking and fintech careers that you are choosing, or trying to navigate your career in different direction, this will help you be successful within your organizations. The knowledge and the know-hows of design thinking and value of research will help you in your day-to-day operations at your profiles or job role that you're doing. So I started my career at HP. I was an international research specialist. That is where. So I was in a different business operations kind of role, and then I moved into research. And over about 10 plus years, I traveled across the globe, testing users, meeting people from different geographies, their cultural inputs to a particular product or solutions. So what is research? It is to go and meet your users in their environment and ecosystem to learn and understand how they work with your products, or what kind of solutions that you're offering to them and how they are using it. What is your takeaway to come back and do things better and enhance their ease of experience? And then post HP, I set up a organization called Human Factors Research and Design along with Vivian Gomes. And since it's been almost more than 2 decades of working relationship with Vivian, we have been evangelizers of human-centered design across the globe, design thinking, also mentoring UX processes within the organizations, also offering these services to customers across the globe. Yes, I'm at my heart, I always believe that users are at its core for the success of any particular product, solutions that you're designing or you're contributing towards a particular product within your organization. So I'm very passionate. I always love to understand people, how they work. And I've worked extensively in Singapore, testing our products with Singaporeans in the 2000s. So it's been an interesting journey for me as well. So I've heard from Manamu and others that you're coming from digital banking, fintech, and banking kind of a background. So you're here to understand what are these two terminologies that we talk about: design thinking and human-centered design. Like you may it may look like a buzzword, or something that is you're hearing it for the first time, or you must have heard it and never knew what this is. So today I'm going to touch upon these two topics. So how much, how do we apply this in our day-to-day work life? You may come from different professional background. You may not be a designer or researcher. So what does it mean to you? How can you contribute or choose this as your career with in addition to your current role within your organization? Yes, it is possible. So design thinking over the decades, over the 3 decades, has evolved. Everybody has adapted their own type of methodologies and method sets. So if you have attended Adya's session earlier, you know she talked about the divergence and convergence method. And there is Stanford D School that they have their own process for design thinking. There is an IDF process where there is a 5 stages of process where empathize, design, ideate, prototype, test. Probably this could be a little bit a complex scenario for you, but end of the day, it all comes down to a certain method sets that people use within their organization. It's a culture of a design thinking process. They adapt a particular process and implement that within their projects to achieve their necessary goals. I would not go deeper into these method sets, but I'm just touching upon it so that yes, every organization has their own uh, design thinking process. This is Apple's design thinking process. Then SAP Fiori, they have their own design thinking process. Most design professionals across the world um, kind of follow one or the other of this process, and it works fine. So we are very closely associated with Luma Institute, and they have, after going through 10,000s or lakhs together method sets that is there out there in the world, various books and various institutions and academics, which they have kind of formulated these processes, and they've all concisely put it together into 3 different uh, process, which is called looking, understanding, and making. I think this is more simplified for any layperson to understand. Oh, okay, looking is a phase where I'm trying to observe, and second is the understanding, and then when you get down to actually making, creating things with your hands. So you know the double diamond method, where it's again the divergent and convergent. So I would not take too much time because I think I have only 30 minutes to go deeper into it. So this is another set of methods from Design Council, UK. Okay, now coming back, what is design thinking? What does it mean to you as a professional from a banking industry, or somebody who's trying to change their profession into something, or trying to move into a different stream of profession? So design thinking is a process in which we solve problems. So this starts with identifying a problem and then solving it. However, human-centered design is a different process. Here, the user is at its core. Although it means the same thing, but here you start with the user and work backwards to solving the problem. But in design thinking, you identify the problem. So if you're working in a corporate environment, and if there is an idea or a product that you want to come up with, then you identify that, what you want to create, and then you work beyond that. That is design thinking. But in human-centered design, you identify the user at its core and then focus on what you can build around it and create solutions around it. It starts by understanding who your users are, what are their problems, just observing them in their real ecosystem, or in their own say if you're coming up with a B2B product for a banking, then you go into these enterprises and observe them, what kind of banking products they use, why they use, how they use, what is their day-to-day structure. And then once you navigate towards understanding your users, then you go about establishing who your users are and then what is their problem, and then you build the solutions or find the solutions. Technically speaking, or from anybody's a natural point of view, it's the same, isn't it? You identify a problem and you go about solving it, and you identify a user and then you go about building a solutions as per the user's need. Both these sound similar, but design thinking looks at the bigger picture. It innovates at a very high level. It looks at, hey, I want to build a product to elderly using banking solutions, right? That is design thinking. Here you're working with an elderly person and then looking at their current systems and tools that are using, and then work around what can we do to make life of this elderly individual better. How can they bank easily, hassle free, and we can enhance their experience? That is human centered design. As the name says it, human centered design is starting with the understanding of the human who is using the particular product or a service. It is typically a way of enhancing the experience. A lot of user experience design, usability comes into play into this. Design thinking is a larger picture. I want to, a company would like to float a phone for emerging markets, right? That is a bigger problem, bigger picture. It doesn't matter who the target audience are. It comes down later, but the bigger problem, bigger understanding is I want a product within this particular range and all the other nuances for this particular market. So design thinking is more like a process. You start with what I want to do, and then you go about doing using these different method sets, algorithms, or the all the different methodologies that is available in the market. Whereas human-centered design is where your mindset is different. You're looking at a user, constantly understanding your user, their current environment, their ecosystem where they're working, the problems they're facing, and how can we make their life a little better? Or how can we add value using the product that we would build to enhance their life experiences or enhance their banking experience? So it doesn't matter what these methods are, design thinking, human-centered design. We teach and train in both these methods, but at its core, design thinking at the later part, you really come to a user and a stakeholder. Human-centered design, you start with the user. But end of the day, it is user and stakeholders. They are the most important pieces of this puzzle, which will make having a winning combination. The only way for you to understand your users and stakeholders is by ways of research. Now, what is research? Research is not a big term where only people with PhDs or people in cognitive science background can do this. No, even a lay person who is working in a banking sector, contributing to a particular product, can adapt certain research method sets and become a researcher, because these are all called primary research, where you're trying to understand your target audience, build a kind of an understanding of who they are, what is the age group, what kind of life they live, what are the tools and technologies they use on a day-to-day basis, what are the functions that they do in a typical day, and where are the gaps, how we can bridge those gaps. So users and stakeholders. Understanding them is at its core of both these processes. So when I say stakeholders, who are these people? Stakeholders are people who are working with you, who are your colleagues typically. Some who work with you rubbing your shoulders, some who are sitting in those big rooms who are decision makers. So it is from CEO, CTO, CXO, CFO, product managers, business managers, to your sales guys, to your marketing teams, everybody, your HR people, external stakeholders are people who are contributing to the regulations or regulatory boards or resellers or retailers. So all of these people are stakeholders. They contribute to your product in some form of the or the other. Now, these stakeholders work with you very closely and you are aware of them on a day-to-day basis, typically, right? Users are the ones who are actually going to be the ones who are going to be using your solutions or your products. They are not in your ecosystem. They are farther away. So you need to understand stakeholders are easy to navigate through because you're meeting them on a daily basis, you're exchanging notes, you're discussing, you're brainstorming. But at the same time, there could be a lot of disconnect. If you are a business analyst, you may not understand what a marketing person may be trying to communicate for the particular product. Or if you're a sales head, you may not understand what the product guy's delay in developing the product is. Or if you're a marketing person, you want to push as much of functionalities into the product, which a design guy may push back and say, hey, this is not possible. So these are all your stakeholders who contribute to the success of the product, for the creation of the product, right? While the innovation is happening, all these people contribute to the product. But users are the one you need to go out, reach out, and meet them in their ecosystem or bring them into a conference room and engage with them, understand what they are doing, how you can get a lot of feedback through structured research methodologies. So these are your stakeholders and users. And if you take 1 minute of your time and close your eyes and think, presently where I am working, who are my stakeholders? And who are my target users? Do I even think about them? Am I conscious about them? I could be from any particular vertical in the organization. Doesn't matter. But are you aware what you're contributing to this product? Are you constantly aware who these users are? Of course, stakeholders, you work with them on a day-to-day basis, right? You may not work with the CEO of your company, but surely you work with one of the people that, like, business guys, sales guys, training, L&D, HR, surely finance, to get your approvals, or you're hiring the right people. So even though you're from different streams of profile within your organization, you do understand your stakeholders at its core. Users is somebody probably you should think about. Who are your users? What is the product you're working on? Or what is the company you're working on? And are they a user? Think about it. So stakeholders are people who has an investment in the company or involvement in the company. Exactly what I said, right? So HR person contributes to bringing the right talent to enabling the product. Sales guys are the ones who will give you inputs from the market. Product guys are the ones who's going to develop this product. I don't see designers here. Of course, designers are also contributors to this, but they are at an external level contributing to the design of the product. So user is anybody who will buy, invest, influence the product, use of the product. So this is a kind of an small example of one of the digital banking and fintech stakeholder map which we had created. You see here, there is all different types of people who are contributing to the product. And at the center, you see there is the user. I'm sorry, there's a spelling mistake, but this user is the critical person to the success of this big picture. And all these guys are stakeholders: CEO and his sub team, corporate customer team, product architects, investment banker. They're all either giving inputs or the inputs is going out to them. You see the arrows. So this is a typical example of a stakeholder map that you can build. Sometimes you can just use a post-it to create a stakeholder map. You don't have to have a structured tools to use it. It is just in your desk, irrespective of what functionality you're working on or what function you're working on. All you need to do is take a post-it, jot down who are your stakeholders, and just pin it up so that every morning when you come to work, you're consciously aware of, hey, these are my users. So any decisions that you make, adding a feature, removing a feature, enhancing, will this work for me? What may work for a technically savvy person may not work for an elderly person or a homemaker. How can I make my product experience easy from a 10-year-old to a 60-year-old? Is that my target audience? No, I'm only catering to the technically savvy people. It's all right. It can be different personas. It can be different user segment that you're working on, but you need to be conscious of who your users are. So getting to know your users. What are the primary things? Surely age, gender, what do they do? Their background, their technical limitations, or what are the tech products that they use? Also, do they fall into a segment of, 90% of the times people have a lot of issues while they are looking at a particular screen, which are not tested or diagnosed, right? Color blindness, short-sightedness, unable to see things clearly. But we build products where the fonts are extremely small because we haven't catered to the persona, right? So these are small things which in the large picture add to the success of your product. It doesn't matter what the product you're working on, but these small understanding of small attributes of your users which you have researched, understood, documented, and communicated will help you build a robust, successful product. So like I said, when you are creating a persona of your users, right? Yes, the first aspect of that will be demographics. It's the typical thing, right? Male, female, interest, size of your home, how many people live, what kind of earning power you have, what are the products that you use, and if you have any specific questions related to the characteristics of use of a particular system that is aligning with your product, then you go down to more in-depth understanding of, the current experience that they're having with the particular product, right? That overall creates your persona. So persona is of a particular user who you think is your target user, who will either buy your product or contribute to using your product. If a husband is buying the product, then wife is using it, then she is your actual user. You're not buying, you're not designing the product for the husband, because he's just a buyer. Your end user is somebody who's going to actually use it on a day-to-day basis. So this overall understanding of user in a very structured format makes it something called a persona. So for a particular product, there are different types of personas you can create. Okay, so this is a little bit of a joke. I don't think I should explain a joke. You can take a few minutes to understand. Okay, so getting to know your stakeholders. Stakeholders primarily are your colleagues, as I mentioned, right? How do you yes, you know that there is a marketing person, you know there is a salesperson in the company who there's a HR person. On a day-to-day basis, there is a lot of communication between you guys, which is not very pleasant because the stress of dealing with day-to-day work life. But it is very important that you build a cordial, good relationship with a particular individual who you have categorized as a stakeholder, and he is contributing to your product's life cycle, right? So the kind of things you can do is be empathetic towards your stakeholder. What is he trying to achieve? Don't get into a situation where there's a lot of pushback. Understand your stakeholders, build good relationships. Don't go and meet them just when you have to get some work done, or when you have to get something. Go and meet them and ask them out for a coffee, because when you build those cordial relationships at the larger level, he will understand what is it your role in this whole thing, and how he can work closely with you to build a concurrent partnership to be able to move forward. If he's not, say for example, if the marketing person is giving you data which is not aligning with what you're doing, then don't try to push back and say, hey, there's something wrong with this data. Try to take that person out into your confidence. Try to explain, can we do a little bit of in-depth probing into why we are facing this? A stakeholder is a very important person to ensure that you're able to go through the life cycle of building your product within the given tenure of the time, and also build an experience that is successful. So try to develop a genuine care. And in this stressful world that we live in, and with pandemic, we are all so scattered. We need to find creative ways of engaging with our stakeholders. It is important that you try to figure out a way that will work for you based on your own personality, how you can engage with your stakeholders. I'm sure I can give you a lot of tips, but today is not the day for that. So when you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you will understand what his problems are, and you will align and try to work together, solving his problem and aligning your requirement, and also working together to deliver a solution. It's a very a good situation to be in. You may say that hey, it's not possible in a work ecosystem, but I would say, if you are putting an effort genuinely, being empathetic towards your fellow stakeholder, understanding his problems. If you give him something and say, hey, develop this in 15 days, and if there are delays, what do? You work with them. You work with your stakeholders, try to understand their problems, and try to see how you can support them, so that the day you're facing those problems, he can understand your issues and work with you in solving them. So it is important that, okay, at a high level, it is important to identify your stakeholders, and it is important that you build a good relationship with them. Otherwise, it's going to impact your product experience, the life cycle of delivery, and also maybe the quality. How well we communicate is determined not by how well we say things, but how well we are understood, right? It is important for you to understand others before you try to put your points across. I think it's a very good quote by Andrew Prue. Or most often we don't have those listening skills of what the other person is trying to tell us. It's always we want to communicate what we want to communicate, and we think the other person has understood, but most often that's not the case. So it's important to speak clearly and to be able to. So will my information be safe with you guys? Sure. If you design your site, nobody will be able to find your stuff. How often there has been products in the market which has failed miserably? It is because the stakeholders have not engaged or shared notes or communicated or had one vision. It's like, oh, I'm doing my job, you do yours. It doesn't happen in isolation or independently. So it is a very important aspect in any person's career to be able to create the stakeholder maps around you and to be able to work with them. So it ensures the success of your product, and it ensures that during the life cycle of this product, you are in much more good control of where things are heading. And end of the day, it's all about building a experience, right? To have a good experience of working with your fellow colleagues. Okay, so what does this mean to us? You must be wondering, I'm attending this session for 30 minutes. What is my takeaway in this? I may or may not pursue a career in design thinking or human-centered design, but everybody who is working in any organization, creating or contributing to a particular product, service, or a solution has to understand this. It is the integral part of any person's professional career. Why? Because what does a user research do to your company? You don't, like I said earlier, you don't have to be a professional, trained researcher to be able to understand what are you working on, who are you working for, what are you trying to build, and who are you building it for. It is very important. Early in the day, if you know who your users are, and if you're empathetic towards them, then your end solution will meet something called an empathy of delivery. It'll help you understand how people perform tasks and achieve their goals. So, like I said, when in say if you're designing a banking app for youngsters, millennials who are in, I think millennials past and we are in Gen Z. But okay, think about you're creating a particular banking solution for young bankers, right? So a age-old traditional solution will not work for them. You need to create something that is fun, engaging. At the same time, with couple of clicks, they will be able to perform their task. So it's important for you to observe them. What are their current techniques? What do they do to bank? What are the ways that they are spending their money? What are the tools that they are using? What are the apps they are using? What are the digital products that is contributing for building or using this product in their day-to-day ecosystem? When they go to school, college, how are they spending it? How are they spending their money? What tools they do? So all of this constitute to you understanding how your end user is performing their task, achieving their goals. In once you do that, it will help you design an effective and pleasurable UX. What is pleasurable UX? In today's world, there are thousands of products in the market. How often do you download and not use them? It's because it is not engaging, it is not fun, it is not bringing joy to you after a certain time. Yes, there are products which you have to use where the experience is very bad, but you have no choice but to use it, but you are so stressed out at the end of the day. So it is important that you perform these tasks early in your product lifecycle. Understand your user, go to their environment and meet them. If there are budget constraints, if somebody is saying no, you cannot do this, then just go on your own, identify prospective users and do this. It is well worth it, because when you're sitting in those brainstorming sessions, the information that you contribute to will add a lot of value in creating and building that product. So it also shortens the development time upfront. Because once you are clear with your user, what tasks are they performing, and what you need to do to make their life easier and better and pleasurable, then you know very clearly what are the features, functionalities, what are the services you're going to offer, right? Post that, the developers and the designers can take on and build a very structured delivery model. What this will do is it will give them clarity on what features they're addressing. At the same time, the time is well within the budgeted amount. It's not like most often we see people are creating something and then recreating and recreating, involving companies' money, time, and effort, all going wasted. And at the end of it, also the passion to design something is also gone. But if you take the right steps, understanding your users, identifying your stakeholders and working very closely with them, communicating with them, and then conducting those researches on your own or engage with a specialized research team. It will help you understand your users, their tasks, what they're doing, and your solutioning. So, this will in turn cut your development time. It also helps avoid costly fixes. So fixing a problem after you have done it costs you like 10 times more than identifying a problem and fixing it at its nascent stage, right? So it is important that costly fixes can be avoided with this. And also time, effort, and money, right? It's important in the ecosystem that we work on. Also, it helps cross functional teams to work collaboratively. So like what I said, right, there are multiple people who are working on this particular product or they're contributing to this, and they are coming from a different role, different experiences, different skill set. They may not understand what you're trying to do, but they know their function profile better. But if you are that one person who is empathetic, who's understood that I need to know that other person's problems, or I need to understand what is making him slow down this process, then you're able to work extremely closely with your cross functional teams and for a very productive output, because you're all working very closely with one goal in mind. Help solves differences in opinion. So basically, tell me, what should I do now? What kind of a person do you need me to hire? Or what is the next features you want me to develop? These are all questions which are like, what should I do or what should we do? You should replace it with how might we? How might we is a very important thing in a ecosystem that you're working in. It says that how all of us together collectively can work together, right? So it will ease your stress. It will create a very cordial ecosystem to work with. And also, I've seen a lot of the time, you will really reduce, lot of pain, stress. We worked with the Indian banking team. I cannot give you too much information, but I can just explain to you. It was a particular redesign of a particular it's a self-help portal that we were redesigning. It involved a lot of research, understanding their current experience, and where the users were struggling, why they were exiting a particular thing, a particular at some point they were exiting because it was very cumbersome, very tough for them to work on. Okay, we were an external agency, we did our research part, we understood the stakeholders are contributing to this, we redesigned. But it took literally 2 years for the organization to implement it. And one of my takeaways from that particular experience of that project was, it was because none of them were talking to each other, and they did not have that one single goal. They were not talking to the cross functional teams. They were not having one single goal of redesigning this product for a better experience. It's like, give me, I will do it. They were not collaborating, and nobody understood who their stakeholders are, who their users are. Each one was working in isolation independently, and they all got together in the conference call and discussed, brainstormed, gave their own great ideas. But after the conference call, everybody went back to doing their thing. What happened at the end of the day? Company has invested 10 times more, and because of pandemic, if this was done earlier, the company's return on investment would be faster and it would be rapid. It is taken 2 years later. So these kind of things is really not a nice thing to have in a company. And you as an individual can be that great change maker within your organization. And all you have to do is understand your users, know your stakeholders. It will also help design and build something people will actually use. Like I said, there are so many products we use on a day-to-day basis. We download, we exit. Why do we do that? Do you want your product to be used by people for a long time with enhancements, updates, constant, recreation of experiences? In that case, you need to get your first step right. If you don't get your users are not never going to change, right? If you know your users, they are all going to be the same, but their ecosystem can change. They may have better technology, they may be better at something, or they may be using a better phones, or as the world is evolving towards AI and stuff, you may have to create a better solutions, but your user persona remains the same. It doesn't change. So it is important that you are closely associated with your user and know your stakeholders. So my thing is, research always helps. People in organization think, why should I invest, say, $10,000 on a particular research, because it's just waste of money. But if you do research and do it early in your life cycle of the product, then your return on investment will be 100 times more because of these 7 points. In each of these 7 points, you will see that there is a kind of a tangible positive attribute that the company is getting. Either it could be in effort, or it could be in hard cash, or it could be in the quality of the product. So it is important, if you want to increase the return on investment, then you have to test, research. So take your ideas and go to your users. Keep on going to them, validating it, testing it, what you need to improve at every point in time. If you work in isolation and say, hey, I know the users, I'm going to create something because I know the technology, I know what I'm doing, then once you do the complete cycle and you have a product ready, it is going to fail because you have not considered your user in this whole picture. If you see in the stakeholder map, user is at its core, right? He's the nucleus of anything that you're creating. If people don't buy what you're building, then it's no use, isn't it? Okay, be human. Don't forget to be human centered. So technology can't solve everything, right? Layers of digital tech should not complicate experiences. People expect human-centered interaction with your system at some point. These days, with a lot of change in our lifestyle, okay, we are all in our own country, in our own cities, in our own homes, working in a very closed ecosystem with not much of interactions physically with people. So we need to constantly innovate and see how we can create a human interaction, human-centered interaction into our products, into a solution. And it should be seamless, it should be easy, it should not take too much of your users' effort to figure out something. And it should be clear. Some people may be wearing glasses, some people may not be wearing. So it is important that you choose the right fonts, right structure. Right? No, it is the expert's job to design those. No, it is not. Unless a designer is told that, hey, listen, this is our user, this is our target audience. So keep the fonts clear, readable. So it's important. These are the small things that contribute and go a long way, irrespective of, I'm again saying this, irrespective of what profile or a background you come from, finance, HR. You can be contributing to anything in your company, but it's important for you to know, what am I doing and why am I doing it? For whom I'm doing it? Thank you. This is my QR code for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. And also, I think Garranto Academy, you can connect to sign up for our courses. And I'll be happy to mentor any of you if you would like more information on this. So we have come to the end of today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Did I overshoot the time?
Yeah, no, thank you, Sabina, for your time. It was very valuable. You may stop sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I think people, enough of one of me is enough. So there is a question from a attendee, Sabina.
Mm.
How do you balance between stakeholder and user? Because stakeholders are internal to the company and users are separate. So would
Yeah.
you please answer that?
Yeah. It's a very important question. So when I was, sharing about this, I was wondering, will anybody come up with this question? Because um, stakeholders are people who are contributing your product directly. That means you're working with them on a day-to-day basis. They are contributing to your day-to-day workings of the particular product. They could be from different streams. If I may go back to the stakeholder map, you see they can be from marketing, they can be from HR, they can be finance, they can be a decision maker like a CEO or a CFO. Those are your stakeholders. But your users are the one who's actually going to spend that money to buy or to download what you have created. So that is the difference. User is somebody whom you're not going to meet every day. They are going to be someone who you need to plan for via a research to go meet them and gather input. But stakeholders are people who you actually rub your shoulders with on a day-to-day basis, and they're working with you in your conference calls, in your team meetings, and that's where there'll be a lot of ceasefire. You need
Thank you,
it's
Sabina.
important that you work with them. uh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's one more question, Sabina, from Corinne Ong, that how do you balance the conflicting objectives of maximizing profitability and user experience? So the
How
question of
do
ROI versus user experience, always as that we see.
Okay.
So
Yeah, Corinne, very good question. I think you are somebody who's in that, uh, money crunching within your organization. Return on investment is very important. Like I said, when you do things early in the life cycle of the product, you are able to.
Sabina, sorry to interrupt, but I think it is maximizing profitability and user experience. There's a conflict there. So how do you balance that? That's Corinne's question.
I don't see the question here, Viren, so maybe I should read
Yeah,
it.
no. So I'll read it out to you. It's saying, how do you balance the conflicting objectives of
Mm,
maximizing profitability and user
mm.
experience?
Huh. So you know what, these are things which are tied together, right? When you want to maximize profitability, when your development time is on point, or when your investment into marketing sales efforts are reduced. So it is important that you follow these method sets to maximize profitability. And return on investment is when you don't keep on going back to redo a particular thing. If you follow this process, the recreation takes 10 times more than the effort that you already put in. So say for example, if you worked 3 months on a particular feature without knowing the certain aspect of your user's current problems, then when you actually create it and test it, you have to go back and rework on it and go back to the phase where you're brainstorming. But if you have considered those initially in the product life cycle, then what happens, what you deliver would be an automatic ROI. We have seen many organizations who have said, no, I don't want to do research, or I don't want to invest this because I want to increase my profitability. I don't want to spend too much so that I keep my cost low. But what happens at the end of the life cycle, they're going back and spending 100 times more to be able to come back to the solution that works and is successful. So that is a very big problem. Like I gave you an example of the banking company, right? They invested, they signed up an excellent design organization, but it's just that their stakeholders was not communicating. They lost a lot of time, and at the end of it, the solution was launched into the market almost a year later, and they lost a lot of internal teams due to attrition and stuff like that. So they had to go back and a lot of time went into understanding what the design was and going back and forth, wasted effort, resulting in lower profitability and return on investment being low.
Okay, so Corinne continues to ask another question. Can empathy be trained? And then there are a couple more questions coming in. So if you can just answer this one for Corinne in continuation.
Can
Can
empathy be trained?
empathy trained? Yes.
Mm, See, I think empathy is something that is inborn to a very certain extent. But yes, it is something, it is an attribute that you can inculcate by change of your thoughts every day. Like empathy is something, if you're always going into a meeting trying to understand what am I doing here, what am I trying to achieve, rather than what are we trying to do here. So that is the first step towards being empathetic towards your stakeholders, colleagues, and your users. Yes, Corinne, it is something that you can build, but at its root level, it is something that you need to start thinking about. The moment you start thinking about empathy, you will become empathetic. So, always,
Yeah.
if you're putting yourself in the user's shoes, you will see their problems and you will become empathetic towards them. If you're putting yourself in your stakeholder shoes, you will start becoming empathetic towards them. It is a natural transition from putting yourself in the other shoes than trying to judge them on why are they doing this, why are they not delivering the product. I hope I've
Thank you,
answered
Savina.
your.
There are quite a few questions, so if we can keep the answers
Sure.
brief.
Okay.
How do you manage? So let me ask Naga Priya. Her question is, I have one question in this virtual working culture, how to interact with stakeholders and users.
Yes.
Can you
Um,
see that on the chat?
yes, I can. I can. Thank you, Vipin.
Okay.
So, Priya, I want to tell you that it is a challenging environment. And recently, we concluded a workshop with an organization in India called Cognizant. So, where we trained the design professionals, right, on how they can work with the users or work with the stakeholders. It is possible because everybody is adapted to this idea of, hey, we're all going to be virtual, right? Sometimes, like myself, right, I spoke to a screen for the last 30 minutes without feeling, I've lost it or something like that. It's okay. We human beings are very, very adaptive. So we can adapt to a virtual working culture. And come to think of it, there are lots of tools and that provide you with an ability to be actually interact with users. But again, if you're testing your product with your end users, then I would really say that you need to be physically present when it is the final testing of your prototypes, or when you're testing it with the end users. You really can't do it virtually as long as it is just a virtual application. If it is a product with a touch, feel, working, then there is no thing. We'll have to maintain social distance and we have to. But I would say 80% of it we can navigate through virtual working culture. I joined a company this year and don't have much time to communicate and face to face interaction. Yeah, it is a challenge I think mankind is facing across the globe, Priya. So, what I would say is, have clear meetings and structure your meetings in such a way that the first 10 minutes you do icebreaker. You kind of talk not about your work, all the other things, and make them comfortable. Psychologically, it is important when you ask, how's your home? What are your kids doing? Certain things. What is it that is troubling you, or what is it? So initially, those warm up or icebreaker questions helps them completely come down to their real self, at least to an extent, and then you can start navigating through your research questions or understanding what is the stakeholder's role. So use empathy in your interactions. Try to have this personal conversations initially for a couple of minutes that will help them settle down and be comfortable. Then you will figure out as you do it. There's
Yeah. So
always.
Savina, there's a next question from I think the same person earlier, but it says anonymous. How do you manage the emotion and mindset in human-centered design in HCD? How do you manage the emotion and mindset?
Mm. Okay, so it's a very interesting question. When one is when you have your user persona very clear, right? And then when that your target persona is interacting with the product, their existing product, or the one which you are showing them, right? The way they navigate through that and the emotions that they depict while they are using that, right, is the thing that you need to keep in mind. While Vivin, I don't see the questions. Can you post it again? Sorry, I
Uh,
lost. How
so
do
the
you
question
navigate
is,
through?
how do you not navigate? How do you manage the
Huh.
emotion and mindset in human-centered design?
So when you say mindset, what does it mean? Right? Mindset is something that you're creating something, keeping your end user in mind. Okay. Now, emotions is when the user is interacting with a particular product or solution, their emotional levels. We said engaging and fun. Their emotions is going to be, wow, I love working with this. Are they going to like struggle? Why is it that I can't find? Why is it troubling me? Why is it taking so much time? Oh, where is it? I can't find it. So these are the things which you need to make note, which contributes to your emotional inputs. I hope I've answered the question. It's a huge topic because research is something that it takes years of experience to. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Savira.
Thank you, guys.
So could you, as a takeaway for people, because this is a career fair, how will this add value to their career as they update their skills? Join the session probably at the IBF offered human centered design course that's coming up. How do you see this takeaway from here, from adding and learning more about this and adding to the portfolio?
Like Vivian, like what I said, right? In HP, I was working in a different function altogether, right? And I had an opportunity to work with some great projects with you in research and try to build myself and constantly innovate and see what I can do better, right? There is a organization growth that you're working with. There is also a personal growth. So you as individuals who participate in this session, please know this, that it is very important that you take up these sessions because it is a paradigm change. It will change your career for better, irrespective of what role you want to pursue. And you will be a very happy person, productive, and delivering a star performer in your organization, because empathy, understanding users, creating a relationship with stakeholders, these are critical functionalities or critical attributes of any professional in today's day. It doesn't mean only if you're designing a product or developing a product you need to know this. No, it is a human form in a career roadmap, I would say. So it is very important, and I hope you all take that leap of faith and do this, because it's going to change your lives for sure.
Thank you, Savira. So, Savira, last question is: just because I can talk, does it mean I can become a researcher? One, two
Hmm.
is I don't talk much. Can I be a
Hmm.
researcher? So
Uh,
there are two sides of personality, like people who can talk a lot and think they can research, or people
yeah.
who think they cannot research because they don't talk, they're introvert.
Okay. So
We
to be
have three
honest,
minutes, Savira. Yeah.
okay. To be honest with you, a talker and a non-talker is not a deal breaker in a research, but it is important for a researcher to completely become ground zero and not have any thought process about what he's seeing or what emotions he's experiencing while he's looking at a person interacting with the product. In my personal life, I've seen people getting extremely angry while setting up a printer, or while installing a software which is taking like an hour, right? They are extremely frustrated. One is, it's not about talking. You surely need to keep a face that is neutral. You don't show any feedback to them, and do not talk for sure, because a talker tends to kind of lead the user in certain way, because a talker is always somebody who's motivated to say things, right? So I would say a neutral, quiet person who is clearly putting the cap of a researcher. It is not me, it is the user today. I'm not going to say anything. It is what the user is going to give me. I'm going to take notes. So, quiet, poker faced interaction with your user while testing is the key to success of a research.
Thank you very much, Savira. That
Thank
brings us
you.
to the end of this session. I hope everybody has benefited. Over to you, Manamu.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thanks a
Thank you.
lot, Vivian and Sabina. I think it is very insightful session. Thanks everyone for the active participation and the interactive session. And if you would like to, see our future coming courses on the human-centered design, you can visit us Garranto Academy portal where you can enroll the courses. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manu.
Thank you, guys. Be safe, be well, be happy. Bye bye.